Absolutely. Cool. Well, hey, good afternoon, everyone. This is Rich Swerbinsky with TMC here for the last week in mortgage today, our weekly kind of whirlwind through all things going on in the mortgage industry each week at 2 p.m. Eastern. Each week, I kind of hand select someone from our lender member network to join me as the co-host. And this week, I am thrilled to have Deb Sturges, the CEO from Hallmark Home Mortgage out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. Deb, thanks for joining me.
Thank you. I appreciate the invitation and look forward to chatting today.
Awesome. So let's get started by just taking a look at some of the things going on in the industry, the news. Let's start with the latest is just projections in general. There was some of the more prominent economists in the industry came out with their updated revised projections for this year and next year. And it's looking like 2020, the biggest year in the history of mortgage lending. Who would have saw this coming?
I didn't see it coming. I didn't see a lot of things that came at us this year, especially in March and April. We were all wondering whether we were going to pull through when there was so many crazy things happening in the mortgage market at that time. So to go from uncertainty, which I'm sure lots of lenders felt, to a year that might go down as a record is a big swing in your emotions in managing a mortgage company.
Yeah, I think coming into this year, just, like for our organization, last year I want to say was like 2.4 trillion, somewhere around there, which is, a good year for the industry. Not historically great, but us and I think most lenders were projecting this year to be somewhere around last year. How did you guys look at 2020 like a year ago at this time? Were you projecting it to be about like last year?
I was actually, I go through a pretty rigorous budgeting process just because that's who I am. And I had budgeted in a like year. And the only thing that I was doing was budgeting a little more efficiencies in the backroom shop because of some of the technologies and some of the things that we were really working on to try to get a loan from point A to point B as efficiently as what we could. But from a volume perspective, I was just predicting a flat year from 19 to 20.
Yeah, and I think most were. And then, this year, like the winter, I think was a little busier than people thought. You got off kind of a good start. Then middle of March, all hell broke loose and, nobody knew what to think at that point. I mean, and then.
No, I had never heard the word margin call before.
Right. You definitely learned the definition of that one in April.
I do. I do. I remember we were, work from home, but my CFO said, hey, we're writing out a check for X, Y, and Z for a margin call. And I was like, yeah, what's a margin call? It's like a pay now versus later scenario. So I quickly got an education on that.
It's like the opposite of layaway.
Yes, exactly. There you go. Oh, that's cute.
And then, it was like 30 to 60 days of like, just what the hell is going on? Like, how are we going to deal with like in-person appraisals and in-person closings and all this employment disruption? And then, that settled a little bit and it's just like, all right, it's on. I mean, it has just been the application train, no stops.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then the amazing part too is really like, if you look at, I'm starting to look at buying a house right now. It's like the worst absolute timing in the world. But there's like no inventory, at least where I live in Northeast Ohio. I mean, houses are flying off the market for above asking. Yet purchase activity has been incredibly strong. Another piece of news that came out this week was home builder sentiment, the highest in 35 years. Mm-hmm. So that clearly means we're going to see new stock coming onto the market. And to me, that is a great sign for purchase activity these next couple of years, right?
Yes, I think with the low inventory, it's really no surprise with a low inventory. I think that's what's really pushing the new construction. And from 2018 to 19, that piece of we have a really good 2 and a 1-time close, but that piece of our business doubled. And this year, I think it'll double again. In our process, I do the last look at the builder just because I do. And I'm seeing activity of 1 or 2 builders that I'm approving daily. So I'm really excited to see that piece of our business grow. We've got a great platform and a good team of people that really know that business and know how to manage it. So it's exciting.
Yeah, it really is, and looks like it's going to be a good, getting back to the projections. I mean, I think that next year is looking like another great year for the industry, which is so great because, and it cracks me up. We've talked about it on the show the last couple of weeks, like, the Fannie Freddie refi fee by FHFA, like, oh my God, look how much these mortgage lenders are making. No thought. This is such a cyclical business. The people at the FHFA. Being a CEO of an independent mortgage banker like you, like the thoughts going through your head 2 winters ago, right? When there's no volume, there's no margins. It's great to see that looks like we got another good year ahead of us as well for the mortgage industry.
We're planning on that.
That's awesome. So the other news, just, not of the last week, but of these last few months, just M&A, not as much on the lender side, because I think maybe a lot of the lenders that were like, I want to be bought now are like, that's great. Right? So the lender M&A has stopped. I think eventually that'll pick back up. But on the vendor side, we've seen a lot of that. And I know you guys are Encompass clients, your Compass Analytics clients, your Optimal Blue clients, the latter 2 both bought by Black Knight, partner at TMC. Yet you've got the Ellie Mae operating system. So I'm just curious, like how you look at that as a CEO and how you see like big tech and the vendor world like flushing out these next few years.
Well, I think it's positive. I have been hopeful that there would be more entities coming into that space, because when, for example, the last number that I saw in the LOS with Ellie Mae is that they had some 60% of market share. As a CEO, that makes me, when I signed up with them, I was nervous about that, because when a market share is that strong, then there's no negotiating process for us, and so, or anybody for that matter. And so what I think is exciting is to see that beginning to open up and new players, Black Knight, for example, coming in, and to see that with the base price that we pay on a per loan basis, that maybe there will be more pickup in that base price. So I'm excited about that. I think the more players that come into that space, the consumers should benefit. I want to ask you, I know that TMC is launching a technology, if you will, a platform to develop some of that. How's that going along? Because we're looking at that of great interest for the same reasons that I noted.
We're getting set to launch it. It's very exciting. Yeah. And like the Cliff Notes version for the viewers is just this general, I guess, the general premise of, technology solutions for small, medium-sized mortgage lenders. And, if it's vendors that have massive market share that increase their, leverage and negotiations, essentially what we're doing at TMC is we're creating a fund, a pledge fund, where some of our members have invested in the startup of it. And through this fund, we are going to reach out to and attract emerging technology providers. So think robotic process automation and all different forms of artificial intelligence, document recognition, companies that have products that are not fully developed, that we're going to use this fund through investments to help bring these products and solutions and companies to market, and will be options for our members to, if they choose to, invest in them, to utilize them. So it's very exciting. We just actually formally raised the amount of money we needed to get the fund going. And it looks like we're going to be launching it in like mid-October. So
Congratulations.
yeah, it's very exciting.
We'll be watching it closely.
Yeah, it should be a true win-win for our members, the industry. There's no obligation for our members, but there should be some exciting opportunity. And hopefully we, TMC, and our now 206 lender members can help take these companies that have great ideas and great products and get them to market. And the beauty of the premise is our members will act as kind of like the sounding board and beta testers for this technology. So instead of okay, we have technology, this is what it costs, buy it, and it doesn't implement or integrate well, we're going to try to work with these companies to help them get from like the 50-yard line to the goal line with the feedback of our members. So should be interesting.
Good.
Cool. So on that same, in that same vein, so one thing that I've been asking some of our co-hosts about, and I'm curious, is that topic in general. So if you, let's go back to the winter when things were more normal, right? It was a decent business winter. You know, people were gearing up for the spring, not knowing what the hell was coming down the pike, but CEOs like you, at least the ones in our network, were really focused on emerging tech, knowing that that's what's coming next, right? The mortgage manufacturing process still very human. There was a lot of focus on that. Then, of course, Corona. Then, of course, 4 months of just insane volume. And it feels like that's fallen off the radar by necessity almost. So what is your take on that, emerging tech, and you personally, the amount of time you've been able to spend looking at it? And
well, you hit the nail on the head, and the short answer really is yes. We were really looking at technology in general, and really kind of beginning to hone in and doing some ROIs on different vendors that we felt could really help with our efficiencies. And we really had to put the brakes to that, just because I couldn't pull valuable resources from who were working on those when I needed them over here to help us get through this surge of business. So hopefully we'll get back on pace to begin to look at these things. And like I say, we really, I think any company has to be really disciplined. It's really easy for somebody to come in and say, hey, we can bolt on your LOS system and we're going to be able to do this, and this. But to have a really good process of due diligence on ROI is really essential. I've got the right team of people to do that. It's just I had to put the brakes on that for right now.
right, you got to close loans and take care of your customers, and
We do.
Yeah, it's
We do. Well, I've been really proud of the fact that our service levels have not changed. You know, to be able to pick up market share because we're able to really have a seamless process where we're not pushing closings out. That's very important to me. So, so right now that's my focus, at just getting through the business and keeping and growing our customer base.
Awesome. We're about 15 minutes in, got about 15 minutes left. Like to keep this to 30 minutes every week, just to be respectful of everybody's time. But I want to remind everybody, any questions, comments, thoughts, anybody has on anything Deb and I are talking about, please feel free to weigh in and leave it in the chat or the Q&A, and we're happy to incorporate it into the conversation. But moving on, you talked a little bit earlier about the 50 basis point refinance fee, that's scheduled to kick in on fundings with the agencies on or after December 1, which amazingly is just a little over 60 days away somehow. So is this back in your rate sheet now? Are you doing any kind of like, hey, lock in now, like
Uh,
against it? No.
no, since we've got a pretty tight process of getting loans, apps into the system and closed, I'm pushing that date out to the 1st of October because without putting any of that price adjustment into our product, because I want to keep that window open so we can help as many homeowners as we can up until that process. 50 basis points is a big change. And so I'm going to push that out as I keep my ear to the legislative. There wasn't anybody in the industry that was pleased when Calabria announced the September 1st date, but he got a lot of pressure and moved it out. But now it's kind of moved over to Congress. And last week there was the Senate Banking Finance Committee chaired by Maxine Waters. He had to testify before that group. And, I think that it's still not over because it's moved into that arena. So there's going to be a lot of pressure, I think, not to say that we won't plan on December 1 being the date, but by all means, there's that battle still is raging.
It's a dangerous game to play. We talked about this a little bit. This lathering of fees. I mean, like one of the untold tales, like, is just the guarantee fee in general already that all lenders are unknowingly paying on all deliveries to the agencies. Used to be in the teens. I remember when I was a cap markets guy, it was a negotiable fee. I remember negotiating it down to 17 basis points in my 20s, and like it was like a career accomplishment. Now it's like mid 50s for everybody. So it's a tax on home buyers and people that now refinance their home, an additional 50 basis points. And when you start to take a look at housing affordability and the need for housing to stay strong to drive the larger economy, it is a little bit of a dangerous game that politicians are playing with these fees on mortgage loans.
No, I think he's, the director Calabria is feeling the heat from Congress right now. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. As you know, I'm a board member of the CHLA, and we've been real close to the issue, and have had our voice heard pretty loudly. So we'll continue to put pressure on them to do the right thing. And I think the right thing is to put it off altogether.
Yeah, and you have been your whole career really involved and engaged in the advocacy side of the business. And it's like taking vitamins. It's maybe not the sexiest, thing to do or way to spend your time, but vital to our industry. And just thank you for the amount of attention and time you've put towards that side of the business over your career.
Yeah, you bet. I appreciate that.
All right, so work from home. Talk to me about, now we're like, 6 months in. The general thing we're hearing is like, productivity was ridiculously awesome in the spring. Everybody was so happy to be working from home, and now it's like this fatigue factor. How's it going at Hallmark now, 6 months into the work from home movement?
Well, I announced maybe 2 weeks ago that we were going to put off coming back to the office until at least January 4th. Because I wanted our employees to have something they could work with, because they've got family situations and what have you. And really everybody's sitting around wondering, what's going to happen at Hallmark as an employee. And so I went ahead and put out that announcement, and everybody sighed a sigh of relief. I'm right now in the process of putting together a survey that I'm going to ask each and every person to fill out and give me their honest feedback on how they feel about working home, from home? Do they want it to continue? Would they, what if we were to do a hybrid model? What things have we really done well with them? What things have we not done well? I just need to listen to our employees, because I think it's easy to, sometimes sit back and think what is going on, and you really need to ask. So we're in that process right now, but I would have to say the whole pandemic and then requiring work from home in March, I believe it was in March, and I think it's been transformative to the company. Probably a lot of CEOs could sit here and say the same thing, because I would have never guessed that we would do it with such ease. Like I had mentioned before, our service levels have not failed. The commitment of the employees has been really, really strong. There are challenges. I would have to say that I'm within 25 to 30%. We're seeing we've got a lot of tools and measurements in place, but we're in the range of 25 to 30% more productive. So I think it goes back to people aren't making that drive, dropping their kids off, running out to lunch, talking by the water cooler, all those things has brought more productivity into the organization. At the same time, which I love, at the same time, I'm trying to figure out how do we maintain that, which is good, and then also create, because people do want to feel connected. And so I've got a team of people that are really working on those cultural things and how to keep during this time and until we figure out how we're going to look at this going forward, whether we come out with a hybrid model of some type. But really focusing in on the culture and really keeping, we've done yoga, bingo. I've been making sure that monthly I do a fireside chat. It's kind of hard to do when it was 90 degrees out, but really trying to be in front of people and approachable. And so we're really looking at many different ways to engage our folks, but also to let them know that they're appreciated, even though they're working in a different environment, they're just as appreciated. So we've got a crew of people that are really working on every single month doing something that really will engage our employees. And I think it's going to be really important, because I try to read things that are outside of the industry, companies that have gone virtual, pre-pandemic, what some of the issues they weren't expecting. And one of them is just the employee engagement after, so long. If you don't feel like you're a part of a team, you can lose some of your culture that you've really worked so many years to, to embrace. And so I take that really seriously, because everybody likes to go to work and they like to work with a team of people, and they want to see a mission. They want to know how they can be a part of that, making that happen. And so that sort of shapes how we're trying to approach this from a virtual situation. So
that's awesome. And yeah, refreshing to hear all the creative things you're doing, trying to get out in front of an issue that all lenders are really starting to now talk about. Is really one of the, outside of the crush of volume, like, the top issue I hear from our members is just that cultural issue, is we're more productive, but I'm a little worried about, just maintaining this great culture that we worked years and years and years to create. Especially, you look at just operational employees in general and this whole work from home movement, there certainly is more of like an independent contractor potential if you're a processor, an underwriter, or a closer. And companies from the West Coast can hire operations personnel in Fort Wayne, Indiana, or Cleveland, Ohio. At, being honest, a lower base than they would pay on the coasts, and so even more important, right? To make
Really,
you got employees that love the brand, love the company.
right. Really very important that we end up whole in this process and not take, from an efficiency standpoint, 3 steps forward, but we'll lose 10 steps in the process. So culture has to be a really strong focus. And like I say, we're spending resources to do what we can.
That's awesome. I'm definitely from like the nothing good comes of talking politics and religion camp, but the election, they're like, I keep, I'm asking all the smart people I know, are any housing related issues going to make it to like the presidential election stage, you think, like that level of vernacular? Do you see that happening in the first debate's actually here in Cleveland, I want to say, like the next week at Case Western University.
So your question was what? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Any housing issues you think that will make it to like the main, debate, presidential debates, or
I don't really see anything. The only thing that potentially could be is this 50 basis points.
Mhm.
And that could be a hot potato if that's thrown out, because I think that's absolutely a negative to the American public, especially during a time when, people are sheltering at home and they have an opportunity to lower their housing payment. And, I think that could be a hot potato if it makes it that far. But like I say, it's already in the political arena right now. So that would be the only thing that I could think of. How about you? Do you see anything?
I don't see it. I mean, like you, I think maybe Biden could try to use the 50 basis point thing against Trump. But outside of that, I don't see it. I don't see it making its way to the main discussion. Just, I mean, especially now, there's so many pressing issues in the country that with the pandemic, obviously, and all the geopolitical stuff. But we'll see. It's that season, so
It is.
we'll know soon enough. So. Last question. We got a couple minutes left. Just how you handling hiring, like recruiting, interviewing? Everybody's looking to add right now. You guys are cranking along. I'm sure on pace to a record year. How has that been? I'm just curious. Like, we just hired 2 people, but they were 2 people we knew, so I didn't have to cast the wide net. But to this point, we never would hire anybody we had not met in person.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just curious as to how, as a CEO, you're handling that side of things.
Well, we've historically really try to promote and hire from within, and so if somebody is stepping up from a lower a paid job, stepping up, then that leaves a position that's more readily filled. We are bringing in, for every processor or 2, we've got an assistant that comes in, and that assistant that we've hired has no knowledge of the business, as an example. And but we're hiring with somebody that really wants to get into the business and learn. So we're finding some really good talent surfacing through those assisting roles, and we're moving them into full-time positions as it relates. So we're doing really pretty well that way by promoting people from within to higher jobs, and then that frees up a little easier space to hire, and then bringing in these assistants. The ones that decide they don't want to be in the business long term, that's fine, but we're also finding some real gems in all of that. So that's been helpful. In terms of the salespeople, we're having a pickup, and I think that some companies haven't been able to handle fulfillment as well as others, and so that's created some opportunities. There's been, in the Midwest, as you know, there's been some changes in some of the banking strategies, and some of those people are within the next month going to be out of jobs. And so we've been in front of quite a few folks. In terms of once you hire them, how you do that in a virtual scenario, we've got a training group, and they have been up and before the pandemic. They were trying to take lots of what we do in training, and they were already videotaping training, and so we've really pushed that along. But we're also looking at, without mentioning any training companies, I don't know, I want to put a plug in for somebody that may or may not be a member of the collaborative, but we're really looking at companies that really have been in the business of training and looking at their modules, and we're going to be spending some resources really putting people through some of those training, not only loan officers that are coming into the business that haven't been loan officers for that long that could really use some basic training, but also some of our operational people. We're looking at that until we get some of our training built out to where we need it to be. So far we've been able to manage this virtually pretty well. And there's, like I say, there's some just amazing companies out there that have been in the business of training within our industry, and they're offering some really good rates right now, and they do a really good job. So we're going to take advantage of that this year.
Deb, always enjoy talking about the business with you. Really appreciate your time, appreciate the insight. Always walk away smarter, which is critical in my role. So thank you very much for joining me. And thank you to everybody that joined in. And we'll be, of course, distributing this video via email and social media and through other channels. So I want to thank everybody for taking some time out, and we'll be here same time, same place next week. Have a great afternoon, everyone.